Hello gobs, and welcome back to another video. If you're not a gob, get subscribed so you can become a gob today. Today, I'm bringing you yet another game review. I was going to wait till I beat the hard mode difficulty of this game, but I decided to go through and release my review now and still do the series later on the channel. As usual with my game review videos, I'm going to go ahead and break down how I review games. I have 5 gold coins, 1 for each section, or technically there's 2 in one section, whatever. The sections are broken down into, we start off with graphics and visuals and animations, then we have gameplay and mechanics, then sound design, voice acting, music, which is worth 2 gold coins because I love music and video games, so that's just a thing for me. I could separate it, but it all kind of revolves around how well it sounds. Then we have writing for final gold coin, so that's all 5 gold coins for each section. And then finally there's like extra gold coins or demerits, which can take away gold coins depending on just how annoying a gameplay mechanic is or just how bad a game is. And at the end we tally up all the gold coins. I give any final thoughts about the game, give it a rating if I would recommend it or not, and then that's it. The game review is over. Now, as a forewarning, there might be spoilers. Maybe not, maybe so. So if you're going to play this game, keep that in mind. I try not to do spoilers, but as a dumb goblin, I slip up from time to time. And remember, this is all opinionated. If you like certain aspects of the game and I say it's crap, that's completely fine. It's just crap to me, and I might say that a crappy part of the game is something I like. With that being said, remember, might be spoilers. This is opinionated content. We are going to move on into today's review. Going to try to keep it a bit short, as I tend to want to do with these game reviews. This is not going to be anything in depth. I'm not going to break the game down piece by piece. It's going to be a little lighthearted overlook of all the main features of the games or anything that stood out to me. So let's get on to what's going to be today's game review. For today's game is it started the Persona series, but Persona is surprisingly a spin-off of it, which is Shin Megami Tensei. Today we'll be specifically looking at Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, or certain SMT 3 Nocturne, commonly just referred to as Nocturne. I've specifically played the 2020 PS4 remaster, but originally the game came out in 2003, and it was both developed and published by Atlus, with the director being, sorry if I absolutely butchered this, but it's Kazuyuki Yama. He also directed SMT4 and has helped on other Persona projects such as Persona 2 and 3 and 4, I believe. If you want more info, I'd suggest go checking him out, but he's mainly directed this game and 4. Now, the difference between this remaster and the original PS2 version that came out in 2003 are some slight changes. I don't know the exact changes, but from what I know, skills used to be randomly selected, and in the remaster you get to pick what skills you want to put on to your fusion, so that's about it. And as far as the game itself, it's an apocalyptic role-playing game where you're trying to go through and either fix the world or make it completely different based on whatever reason you decide to pick. I'll get more into that in the writing section, but for now, just know it's just a JRPG set in an apocalyptic Japan. Now, let's move on to our 5 sections from earlier. Starting at graphics and visuals. This game was made in 2003, so obviously the graphics are going to look old. Even in the remaster, it still has that, it's not early PlayStation 2, it's like midway through the PS2 lifestyle, but it doesn't look awful, it doesn't look bad. You can kind of see the hard edges on some of the models, but for the most part, it captures the setting well. The place looks like an apocalyptic Japan, but it also distorts it. There's a lot of distortion within the world map. Obviously the places are spread up, broke apart. You can see in this scene where everything's getting warped and distorted, and it feels both like a familiar place, as in the real world, and then as a completely different alien place, as in what they would call the Vortex world. The graphics, I think, capture this apocalyptic setting quite well. As far as animations and stuff, I mean, there's some uniqueness to it. Like if, for example, there's skills that need a monster or a demon to have a mouth. So if the demon has a mouth on the model, it will use the breath attack from the mouth, if that makes sense. And same thing for if it has claws, it can use claw attacks and all sorts of like that. So the animations is okay. The graphics are okay. I think they're good for the time that they came out. They capture the scene or the setting that they were trying to set up. My only little gripe about the game is that on certain parts of the map where you need to enter into a certain building, it can be kind of hard to miss these buildings because that red light that's supposed to flash isn't very noticeable. But that's it. I think the demons have really unique designs. Some of them, like, they're so big that they're just a head coming out of the ground. And I think nothing really put me off. There wasn't anything like, ew, this sucks to look at. I think most of them, I mean, Mothman looks a bit stupid, but he's growing on me, okay? He's growing on me. So, for the most part, this section, it gets a gold coin. And we're going to move on to our next section. Our next section is gameplay and mechanics. Now, as a forewarning, this section tends to be the biggest section, I think for obvious reasons. Most of the time, I can get over the music pretty fast because as I enjoy it, there's not going to be too much to comment about. And then the same thing for the graphics and visuals and for writing as well, because writing tends to go over my head or I just don't pay as much attention to it. So this section is going to be pretty long, just as a forewarning. As always, if you want a detailed breaking down of these sections, you can go watch my first video game review, which is Fallout 1. And I hope I remember to put it in the cards, but I really hate trying to set up cards, so whatever. We're talking about SMT3. The first and foremost thing that's solely unique about this compared to any other RPG that I've seen or I've played, I even tried looking it up, and I hadn't found any other game series besides SMT that has the style of combat that it does. This style of combat is known as press. Now, press turns means, well, it's going to take a bit of explaining, but for every character in your party or every character on the enemy team, everybody gets a turn. So the max you can have in your party is 3 people plus the main character, and the enemy teams can have anywhere from 1 to like 8 people, sometimes even more. So essentially, when it's your party's turn, everybody gets a turn. And, you know, highest person with the highest agility goes first. But besides that, what makes it difference that if you inflict a critical, if you inflict a weakness, or if your teammates set up something like if they Zeo shock them and they become paralyzed and then you hit them with a normal attack, it usually results in a critical. Doing this results in you gaining like a half turn or a press turn. And you can do this for as long as you still have full turns left. So you can't just keep getting a press turn over and over. As soon as you use a full turn to get a press turn, that's it. So the max you can do in a turn is have 8 actions that you can do. Of course, you can always pass your turn, and that also gives you a press turn. But if you don't use that action, then it's immediately ate up. Whereas if someone else gets a press turn and then it passes to that person, if they do an action, it doesn't eat up the press turn. So that's just a little bit about it. You can also lose turns if the enemy dodges. You lose 2 turns, including that turn. So it's that turn and the next turn. You lose those turns. If the enemy reflects, absorbs, if it absorbs, you lose 3. If it reflects, you lose 2 or something like that. Basically, if you do something and the enemy dodges it or nulls it completely, then you lose turns from yours. Now, this doesn't tend to matter if you're able to build up a bunch of press turns, but it can really matter because any way you can get press turns or lose press turns, the enemy can also do. So, like I said, if you're going against an enemy of 6 people and each one keeps landing crits and weaknesses, that goes up to like 12 turns that they have taken in total, which can be quite devastating and usually ends with you in a super disadvantaged position or even just killing you outright. I was going to leave this in like the extra credit scene or whatever, but you know, for this here, I'm just going to do it here and say it gets a gold coin because this mechanic is so unique and I thoroughly enjoy it. Anyway, let's move on to another core mechanic of this game, and that is negotiations and fusions. Now, if you have played Persona, you'll probably recognize this, but in Persona, you can negotiate with the demons, or at least in 5. I haven't played 3 and 4 yet. They're on my list, but I know you can obtain more demons in the game through negotiation or capturing them. There's some form of give and take. You usually have to answer questions or give them a thing, and this is probably where it stems from, is in SMT. Whereas these negotiations, you can talk to an enemy, and they'll ask you for money, items, they'll ask you a question to drain your life. And if you do all of this correctly, sometimes they join your team, sometimes you're not strong enough, but they'll leave you with a gift. There's all sorts of stuff that can happen. For example, if there's 3 or more and you try to talk to them, the other person on the enemy team might cover and prevent you from talking to them, which results in you losing a turn. If the Takasuchi or moon is full, which is a mechanic I'll get onto later, but if it's full, you can't talk to them at all. And there's just all sorts of little stuff you can do with negotiation. Negotiation tends to not matter towards the late game, as in you probably have all the demons that you want, you probably have all the items that you need, so there's no really real point in negotiating besides if you have that demon on your team and you negotiate, then you skip that battle. They'll just leave the battle. They're like, hey, you have my friend, and then they'll just leave. So that's awesome. I mean, I really enjoy the negotiation system. Sometimes you'll dump like thousands of Maka and give them really rare items, and then they'll just end up leaving anyways. So some people hate it, but I think it's pretty fun. And then the point of getting all these demons is fusion, which is definitely part of Persona. Every Persona game has a fusion mechanic to it. So if you played Persona, played SMT, you already know. But for those who haven't, basically you can take a demon, fuse it with another demon, get a random result. Sometimes the results can go crazy, but this is present in this game. There's unique demons you can get by fusing certain demons. And you can also power up your demons by fusing, blah blah blah. Fusion is a pretty big part of the game. There's a big old calculator, you can go and find everything. But it's also pretty fun. I enjoy the negotiation and fusion system. Now the next part I was talking about, Takasuchi, which is, it's presented in Persona, but it's not as big. In the game, there's this big ball in the sky known as Takasuchi, also commonly referred to, some people just call it the moon, because it does go through phases. It starts at new, goes all the way to full, 1 through 8, and then it drops back down to new. At full, you encounter more demons. Demons are more crazy. You can also, there's these chests that you find that if you encounter at a full, you get the guaranteed item. If you don't, it goes off your luck skill to see how lucky you can get the actual item in the chest. If not, you get some random crap item. And full Takasuchi allows you to do sacrificial fusions at a Cathedral of Shadows, or where you go to do your fusions. But sometimes the gameplay just ends up looking like this, where you're trying to get to a full Takasuchi, and it especially sucks if you just came out of full Takasuchi, and now you need to go all the way back to full. So you gotta walk all the way to new, and then walk all the way to full. It especially sucks if you're in a dungeon, and you find like one of those chests I was talking about. Well, you're going to be sitting in front of that chest spinning in circles because that chest is probably in a hidden area and you don't want to leave, so good luck enjoying your 15 different encounters trying to get it back to full Takasuchi. Now, another aspect of this game that's commonly, I think, made it a cult classic is the game can be brutal and even unfair at times. On normal mode, it's still kind of unfair, but as soon as you hit hard mode, it's extremely unfair. Let me tell you why. First of all, the press turn. The whole press mechanic can be really for you. It can also be really against you. Especially if the enemies get to go first and they're just scoring criticals or they're hitting your weaknesses and all that. Let's talk about the insta-kill spells and abilities. In the game, there's light and darkness. Let me see if I can remember. It's Mahama for light spells. So skills are kind of like Ma means hit all of them, and then I forget what the suffix is to increase it. It's like Mahama, Agion, or stuff like that. It's something like that. Basically, there's different tiers of spells. There's one that hits a single target, the ones that hit the group, and then there's one that increases the chance for insta-kill. And then that's the light spells, and then there's Mudo for the dark spells. So Hama and Mudo, light and dark. These spells have a chance to insta-kill you. Much like in the Persona games, if you're the main character and you die, it's game over. So when they are hitting your entire team with insta-kill spells that can kill your entire team, it's kind of just a butt clincher. Because you're hoping that it misses and that it doesn't kill you. And if you're halfway through a dungeon, or if you're farming and you haven't saved in a while, and you encounter an angel or a demon, or a devil, I guess, everything's called a demon, but if you encounter one of these, you're usually trying to kill them as quick as possible. Because it sucks. It happened to me before. I was 30 minutes into farming. I was just trying to level up for the next boss, and then boom, Mahama killed me, had to restart the entire thing, and now I know, save often. And then going from that into hard mode, where everything is no holds barred. Because in the beginning tutorial, as you'll see right here, everything does 1 damage to you. In hard mode, everything does 10 damage to you at the beginning. So you'll see it whenever I start the playthrough for the first time, or if I'm lucky enough, you won't see it, but I doubt it. I've died like 10 times in the hard mode just in the tutorial level. It's going to be a fun ride. Keep your eyes out on the channel for this series that is coming out. But it being brutal doesn't really bother me. There's a certain boss in the game, which I won't name, but it's known as like the noob gate or something. Basically, if you can't get past this boss, you're not going to make it throughout the rest of the game. I mean, obviously you have to get past the boss to beat the rest of the game, but whatever. It's basically like the ultimate test to see if you can truly handle what the rest of the game has. But truly, I enjoy all of those mechanics. Yes, even dying. Yes, even having my farming shrink in. It's annoying, makes me close the game at the time or exit out of the game, but it doesn't like turn me away from the game. What does turn me away from the game is the annoying puzzles. To compensate for it all being combat, there's these puzzles and these dungeons throughout the game. One of them being dungeon where you can't touch shadows at all. Now you think that would be pretty easy until they start putting the shadows directly behind doors that you need to go through. So there's like this hallway of like 6 doors, and then you go through one, only one door is the right way to go that doesn't reset you to the beginning of the dungeon. Now, if you're a smart person, you would just go while you're in the shadow world of that dungeon and see which one doesn't have a shadow. But I'm stupid. So I spent a really long time in that dungeon trying to find the right way through, and that doesn't include the second half, but puzzles are extremely annoying. And then there's just like some unnecessary mechanics. For example, there's certain dungeons that are dark that you need an item kind of called a light ball, or the ability called a light doma, and basically all it does is light up the dungeon. It has no in-battle use, and it has no outside of battle use aside from lighting up the dungeon. Now if you're in this dungeon and you don't have these items, the map itself is blanked out too, so you don't know where you're going unless you played the game 1,000 times. Now, this wouldn't be so bad if light balls were readily available. There's like one shop that has them, but just the backtracking to go back and buy this one item you need for a dungeon, it really makes it feel super unnecessary. And if you want a demon to have light toma, you can only have 8 slots on your demon. So having one dedicated to light toma just feels really awful for a mechanic that barely shows up and doesn't even affect battles. Like, if it affected battles, that would be one thing, but it doesn't even help in battles, so it's like, what's the point? But that's it as far as gameplay and mechanics go. There's some smaller stuff here and there, but again, this isn't here to sit down and break every single aspect of the game. Whatever. Gameplay and mechanics gets 2 gold coins because of how unique press turns are. I wish more games did it, but like I said, it can kind of be unfair at times, but that's fine. Let's move on to our next section. Sound design, voice acting, and music. Now originally in the 2003 release, or 2002, I've already forgot. Oh. Whatever. But in the original game, they didn't have voice acting. However, I am playing the 2020 PS4 remaster version. That does have voice acting, so I'm going to go off of that. For the most part, the voice acting's pretty okay. I mean, I play in the dub. As always, I love dub. And there's nothing wrong. It's nothing like outstanding, but it's nothing horrible on the ears. And that's usually all you can ask for. It's just it being easy on the ears. But I do love hearing Pixie. Pixie in the beginning was very funny. Wow. I wish the game had more sections like that. Dante? The music is weird, but it starts to grow on you. Especially when you hear how the original composer, Shoji Meguro, I think that's how you say it, but hearing how he made the songs is even better. Essentially, he took his voice, and then he took Microsoft Sam, the AI voice, and he basically mashed them together while reading lines from the Book of Revelations to make the battle themes and boss themes for this game. And when I heard that, I was like, yeah, I can see that. It's really unique. And like I said, the music's weird at first, but then it starts to grow on you. I can't really compare it to any other thing, just because the music itself feels wholly unique to SMT. SMT4 also sort of has similar battle themes. I think even SMT5 also kind of has a similar music theme to it, but I haven't played those. So, for the most part, SMT3 is super unique to me, as in, I've never heard, it almost sounds, I want to say grungy, but it is the early 2000s, so it kind of makes sense, I guess. You know me, I don't know a thing about actual music, I just know video game music. And what I know is I like the songs in here. So for this section, it gets 2 gold coins. Finally, moving on to the writing. Sadly for me, the writing in this game just doesn't, it's just bleh, as I've written. You followed it through. Okay, it's pretty cut and dry. Some people have said that it's not really a storytelling game, it's more a game about parables, but personally, I rather have a storytelling experience. The main story of this game is that the main character is transported to a vortex world, or basically the world is destroyed in what's known as the Conception, which is brought upon by a cult. The world is torn of thunder and is turned into the vortex world. There's a big orb in the sky called the Takasuji, and basically the main character is going throughout the game, gaining more power, gaining demons for his party, and basically you meet 2 school friends, or not even friends. They just say they're classmates, so they're not even technically your friends, and a teacher. And then, well, they say teacher, and she acts like she's just meeting you for the first time. So, and then there's another character named Hikawa, who's played up as the main antagonist of the game. The sucker brought upon the Conception. Come on, And then you meet some other side characters. No one else really has a direct reason, but as you play, each person starts to develop a reason, which is basically a 1-sentence word for what they want the new world to be into. And then you follow each one throughout the story. You're just following them, seeing how they gather up all the energy to bring a god into the world, and then that god will help them put the reason, eventually make the world reborn. And that's essentially the plot of the game. So you're just following them along, getting stronger yourself, encountering obstacles, you get over the obstacles, you're really just listening to each character, and then eventually you decide whose reason you want to go with. But here's the thing. They ask you if you want to follow the reason super early before they've even put anything into motion. So you basically know bare minimum. And there's yes, no, or like a, I don't know, we'll decide later. But they never give you a chance to decide later. You either say yes there, or you don't get to side with that character at all. Which matters because in the end of the game, spoiler warning, but it's not even a spoiler warning because all three people and some others have these reasons. Well, they're all going to start clashing with each other, trying to get to the big ball in the sky to make the world new. So obviously you're going to have to fight each one in order to put your reason ahead. So you go through and fight each one to try to put somebody's reason so you can reborn the world or whatever. You're a demon fiend, you don't get a reason, and you have to work for someone else to build your own reason. Or technically you can go against everybody and become either the freedom ending, which resets the world, or true demon ending, which you gotta do a bunch of other stuff through what's known as an Amala network. It's a big old side dungeon. Those two endings are kind of like you don't pick a reason, you just do it yourself. What I'm talking about is if you say yes to one of the three previous reasons, that person won't fight you in the tower, and they basically just let you pass. So you end up only having to fight 2 boss battles rather than having to fight all 3. Eventually, at the ending, you get to see that reason come to life, and you get a cutscene of the new world. So you being able to say yes once in the story rather than being able to give you like a second chance, because they give you a second chance to go and do the true demon ending. They give you like 3 chances actually. But for everyone else, you either say yes or you never get to do that reason ever. By the time they grant you the first reason that you can say yes to, you don't even know what the other people's reasons are going to be. It's not bad, but it also implores you to play through the game multiple times. But if you're like me, I only like to play the game once unless the story changes. So that's why I kind of left all the Amala network stuff for the side, just so I can go back through and play the game a second time, which I'm doing in hard mode, so you guys will get to see all of that. Just a reminder, keep your eyes out for that series coming out. But a big thing of this game is that it's parables, it's all philosophical, makes you question life, blah blah blah, whatever. I only really like philosophical stuff when it puts me into the position of the character, such as in Nier Automata. You're playing as these droids, or androids, who develop feelings, and then it's kind of fun to think from their point of view philosophically. But just from me, I don't really care. The story didn't really grow onto me too much, so the writing's not for me. It doesn't get a gold coin from me. Not that it matters. I mean, I'm just saying, again, it's opinionated. It's just the writing didn't really appeal to me. Now we're going on to our final thoughts and rating. I enjoy SMT so much. It's going to be one of the only games I actually do like a second playthrough, because normally on these story-based games I never play through again. Like I said, unless something drastically changes, like playing through Mass Effect again or playing through Dragon Age again, your decisions really impact how the overall story can change, and you see completely different events. Same thing within Baldur's Gate 3, you definitely see the different impacts in between the different playthroughs. But for being a game where the story doesn't really change much, depending on your second and third playthrough, I find myself wanting to play through it again. Maybe it's because I don't have that attachment to the story like I do other games, which is good or bad, but overall, I would recommend it. Don't go into this game, if you're going to get it, don't go into thinking it's going to be exactly like Persona, because it is far different. You might see enemies that you know from Persona in this game, but it's definitely not Persona. Fun fact, like I said in the beginning of the video, Persona came from the series. Every game, originally up until 5, was named Shin Megami Tensei Persona, whatever number it was. 5 was the first one. And then if you go and look, Persona 4 Golden doesn't have it because it's a different one. And then 3 Reload also doesn't have it. They kind of just snipped it out. Because let's be honest, that is a really long title. Shin Megami Tensei Persona 4 Golden. So if you're interested in these old RPGs that tend to be on a bit of a harder side to play, then I would recommend you playing SMT3. Or if you just like JRPGs in general, this is a pretty good one. There's a lot of strategy involved, especially when you're fusing and selecting specific skills. There's a lot of times when I was fusing demons, I had to stop and think what skills I actually wanted to keep and what skills to get rid of. Because again, you only get 8 skills, but if you combine 2 demons, you get like 16 different skills that you can pick from both of them to put onto that new demon. So if you enjoy more tactical, harder JRPGs, then go ahead and play SMT3. Once again, I'll be making a hard series out of this, but I've already said that multiple times. Let's just get on to our final rating. Calculating all the gold coins, this game is 5 out of 5. Which is what I hope most games get. If the game doesn't get a 5 out of 5, then it could still be an okay game, but it generally leads to being a bad game. So, 5 out of 5. It's a good game. I'm playing it again. It's nothing like super crazy. It's become a cult classic from what I've seen. So, if anything I said today really interests you, then go ahead and pick yourself up a copy. Not sponsored. So, SMT3 Nocturne, the remaster, is a good game. Of course, you could always go and emulate it. You didn't hear that from me. Remember, check out my Twitter for updates. Check out the Reddit for posts about videos. I haven't exactly decided what to put on there yet, but for now, I'm just uploading new videos. So if you don't like Twitter, you can go to the Reddit. If you don't like Reddit, you can go to the Twitter. Or you can always keep your eyes out because I recently found the community tab on here. So I will be making community posts about the same updates I put on Twitter, just in case you guys don't like Twitter either. I think I put all those little communications out there. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, like it, I guess. I'm not going to command you. Okay, I might be a king, but I'm not a dictator. Gosh. So I hope you guys have a lap of a day. That's it. Just have a lap day, darn you.